We now return to Let's Play Rogue State. This time with post-commentary because someone forgot to turn on his microphone during the recording. So anyway, at this point we have a very large income and a pretty decent treasury. And what I want to do with that is sort of hang on to the money that I'm making, because we can use that to bump up the treasury a little bit more instead of spending it on things. It's very tempting at this point to just blow it all on a lot of policies and other things for our infrastructure, but really it's going to be more vital later on to save a little bit of it so that I can actually use it on important things that will build up the factions. One thing I'm definitely considering is opening up the sweatshops, because we can use that to boost our capitalist approval, and we do have textiles in our resources right now. It'd be very easy to get goats so that we can unlock the cashmere bonus, which would help double that. Don't think we want to go down too much else. What we really need to focus on are getting everyone's approval ratings going positive, because we're now severely under. Wildlife Refuge will give us Patriot and Liberal approval, which is kind of important, although Liberals are a small faction. More important would be the Impressive Stadium, which does Patriot and Capitalist approval. Those two factions, of course, being the largest right now. Definitely need to get them going somewhere above 50. Another important thing just for the economy would be going the American Hotel and Global Shipping Giant. If nothing else, just to get that little bump from the tourism. It would help out the capitalists a little bit, but also our GDP. I figure that the sweatshop is probably a good choice, just because we get approval per turn as opposed to the stadium, which is just sort of a lump sum deal and then can go down beyond that. Every +1 we have is counteracting Farouk. And yeah, we see here Cashmere Manufacturing doubles the effect of the sweatshop. That just means we get the +2 bonus that was in the parentheses there. Unfortunately, we will not have access to the metals in the trendy Cashmere Manufacturing, which would be one of the only things that would give us +2 liberal approval, or any liberal approval. It would also have the effect of no ongoing expense, which would eliminate that 5 per turn upkeep. Probably one of the more important things. But right now, we can go ahead and see what we can get through the trade. We can also get the spices with the goats to get traditional cuisine, which gives +2 fundamentalist and patriot approval. So going for both of those is probably our best bet to get some of those early bonuses, bring our approval ratings up. Of course, the problem here is that that's severely going to eat into a lot of the income that I'm making per turn. So what I'm doing at the moment is deliberating whether or not it's more important to have the approval or more important to save up for the money. And I think what I'm going to do is just sort of save up a little bit of a bankroll to pay for a few things, and then use that on the next couple turns to go into the trade and see if we can't bring ourselves into some kind of deficit/balance. And then, of course, we also have to worry about the military situation, but we will have to wait on that because we just don't have the time or the money. So let's read the newspaper. It is the same newspaper, of course, that we'd read from the last time. So I've got a full turn here, and I'm really tempted to just let that ride so that I can use my 40 per turn to bump up. I do have approval coming in from most of my factions, well, all of my factions, but that +1 is being counteracted by Farouk. So really the approval for those guys are going nowhere. We're only getting an increase in approval from the Patriots at this point. So should find out what Tariq says are the pressing concerns. Again, vulnerability, so the military definitely has to come into play here. Really, though, we've got low patriotism. That's a bit of a problem. Unfortunately, they happen to be one of the large factions, and I guess we'll look through some of the policies. Things are kind of skewed right now, where we're getting the best I really can. Switching the capitalists up would be nice, seeing as how they are a large faction. But again, we can't really do that without counteracting the Patriots, whom we apparently need to increase some approval. They like some of the same things that the liberal factions do, but other things have no impact on them, and it's really not good to antagonize any of the factions right now. But the strongest way to try and balance the capitalists is to do the minimum wage and the labor, but that of course affects the liberals. But we also have to worry about bringing the labor and the jobs down, because I don't have enough that is bringing jobs up. Unfortunately, again, we just don't have the overall approval rating to really manipulate the polling. So I figure it's probably best to just leave things as is, and we'll have to hope that we can use end-of-turn events to sort of help manipulate the approval. But rather than just go to the next turn, I decide that I'm going to go through and may as well talk to everybody, including the Ambassador of America. Talking to the Ambassador doesn't really have as many effects on our relation as just doing things does, but important to talk to them nonetheless. Now, here we have some opportunities to put a foot in a mouth, because once again I struggle to remember what our neighbors actually like and dislike in conversations. I mistakenly believe that Bothia is one of the countries that actually likes religion, mostly because of the bad notes that I left myself. I'm only leaving topics and then little pluses and minuses. What the plus means in this situation is that we need to disparage religion, but, well, here we go.
To govern in the strictest traditions of the old ways, and to protect the people from heretical philosophies.
How disappointing. We hope that in this modern era, we would grow beyond such antiquated beliefs.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake there. Just time to end the call there and move on to the next neighbor. That could have gone a little bit better, but it doesn't seem to have affected their relations that much. It's Babelistan, really, who are the group that approve more of the religion, or at least it sounded like that from the encyclopedia entry. It will not be the first mistake I make regarding topics of religion, but nonetheless, let's talk to Tajikistan.
Thank you for taking...
None of these options really are good for them, because they hate the West, and probably the religion, simply because they imprisoned many of them. However, we can talk about our worry over Western imperialism.
Unfortunately, dealing with the West is a necessary evil to bring prosperity to our region.
Which ends up being something that they, I'm guessing, kind of like. Perhaps because I forgot that being a Middle Eastern dictatorship, they were probably getting some kind of support from the West in that regard. So, once again, I strike out. It doesn't seem to have affected us too negatively, which is good. It'd be nice eventually to get the intelligence agency so I can start getting some intelligence on that. Probably helpful. And then, of course, Babelistan has no good options. But I figure, mistakenly, that they are one of those nations that is going to be a little bit more moderate over the religious things. And
while we may glorify the old ways, we must not fall victim to the trap of institutionalizing it into the state.
Those who say religion has nothing to do with politics do not know what religion is.
And to that point, I kind of forgot that they are actually a very religious nation. So, nothing good there with my neighbors. And that actually did seem to impact our relations with Babelistan, which is not so great, because now Bothia is our best friend. So, let's go ahead and just set up an appointment.
It is always a pleasure, Your Excellency. I would be happy to meet with you when an opportunity opens in our busy schedules.
So yes, the U.S. ambassador actually comes first thing on the next turn. Excellency, Basenji officials have discovered the wreck of an ancient wooden exploration vessel off the coast of Basenji. The wreck appears to be at least 600 years old and may be an ancient Chinese treasure ship. This is a glorious find for the scientific and historical community. We can have the ship excavated, ensure any gold discovered is added to the treasury. This will help us improve the lives of Basenjis everywhere. Big boost to the Treasury. Could probably use that if I'm going to build a lot of infrastructure or invite scientists around the world to come share in this remarkable discovery, which increases relations with the rest of the world. Probably good, considering, but if I really want to go development early on, having the boost to the Treasury probably a little bit more important. It would be nice to have everyone on my side, especially so I could increase my opportunities for trade. And after all the disastrous conversations, it's very tempting to go that way. But I think I opt for just increasing my treasury and definitely using that to advantage, because we're going to be eating through that money here pretty damn quick. So here's our chance to speak with the U.S. ambassador first thing in the morning. Probably nothing much will come of this early on, mostly because we don't have any relations to leverage with the U.S.
It is my pleasure.
So it's tempting here to beg for some help, but because of our relations, we're not really going to get a good result from that. So really all we can do is try and talk to the ambassador. That alone I don't think helps out too much with boosting our relations, but nonetheless.
This is my third post into the region, and my family is very happy here.
I am pleased. If there is anything we can do to make things more comfortable for you, please do call upon us.
Yeah, and we don't want to insult America at all at that point, for sure. Later might be a different story, but for now we need everyone sort of off our backs. And we now have a new ministerial request who wants to boost popularity with liberals to 63% in the next 5 turns, and that is probably not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I mean, Jesus, we're hurting as it is on our patriots. So everyone's kind of going down, and yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be rectified, but getting liberals up to 63% is going to be hard enough. So that's something we're going to fail, and we're going to have to anticipate. However, I am getting 70 loyalty points here, so it is increasing now. We're getting +1 per turn. That's good, because we need that eventually to go to 100, so that I can start buying off people using my my extra bonuses. So I'm deciding now what to spend the money on, and national defense doctrine would be a quick boost to patriot approval and probably help with the military. However, at this point, that's not really a priority. What's a priority, really, is getting the economy moving. Having those sweatshops for the bonuses and the trading. But really, looking at this now, it would be better just to not do this. Otherwise, we're just going to spend money on projects that are going to boost ratings, and going with that wilderness approval would actually boost us up with the liberals, get us very close to the goal for our minister. Education, if I go faith schools, which is what I want to do, so I can boost up my reputation with the fundamentalists, that's going to affect me negatively with the liberals, and that, of course, isn't going to help anybody. Going patriot and capitalists right now is not a big deal, but I mean, being the biggest factions are going to hold more sway in Parliament, so it is kind of an important thing here. But again, I just don't have the money for this all at the moment, so I need to make a decision here, and hope that I'm not going to use my entire treasury up and destroy my chances of earning more. The income is going to be very important, and the wildlife refuge is definitely cheap. It's very tempting to take that and try to get the ministerial bonus, mostly because it helps get you other bonuses for other factions as you complete those missions and the quests. But here I opt for a quick boost to the Patriots and the Capitalists, being the biggest factions. Swaying the Parliament is my biggest concern. Just generally getting my popularity up, I feel, is more important at the moment. We can use the next turn to get 40 million more in the Treasury, so we can spend again on the next turn. Relations with Babelistan, cool, yeah, because I'm an idiot. They were a big ally, but not so much. Patriots and capitalists now make up almost 70% of the population, so it was a good thing to pander to them. The liberal approval being only half and then making up 12%, not such a big deal. However, we look at the overall popularity I'm enjoying right now, not so great. So definitely need to start pandering to some factions, and probably the ones that make up the most of the population. Which is going to be very difficult to do because I set a lot of my policies to moderate, which means that they are pretty well balanced in regards for keeping everyone happy. Of course, capitalists, fundamentalists, and liberals now at 1% per turn, that doesn't really mean anything because Farouk is taking a -1 per turn, so they're essentially stagnant, and it's going to be very hard for me to find a balance where we can actually grow their approval. I'm basically going to have to go extreme and get them well above 1%. That, of course, means that we have to balance it so that it's not negatively affecting the rest of the country. So, I play around with the sliders here, just hoping that I can find something that will actually work. I also have to keep my eye on the negative impacts. Right now we've got quite a bit going negative on the labor, and definitely hurting on the jobs. It might be worth it to try and bump things up, but I think right now it's best just to sort of maintain and keep everyone at least neutral. Bumping up the workers for foreign workers helps, but we really are suffering from taking away on the jobs and the labor rights. That's going to be very difficult to actually gain any kind of traction on, just because there's very little I can really do to gain approval for labor rights outside of the minimum wage, which of course affects negatively on my capitalists, and I can't really afford to do that. Corruption increasing is also not helping. We've got 3 things that are going positive corruption with this combination. That's not the best. Might have to just accept that without drastic changes to what I'm spending and basically just what faction I want to focus my policies on, we're really not going to go very far. CCTV actually does help quite a bit with the Patriots. It boosts that up to 5%, and so I can use that now. I can use those points to shift around and maybe try and get a balance. But basically, all I'm doing right here is just coming back to where I was, and now I'm having negative effects on jobs and labor, so even that doesn't really help. It's going to have to be something that we focus on in the turns to come, hoping that one of the factions maybe increases or decreases to the point where they're not really an important factor in my political dealings. What is more important is getting some of these buildings set up, and I think that once we have some of the increases through the sweatshops and other trading goods on the capitalists, we can start focusing on the other factions that don't have as many buildings. We're definitely not going to be able to get up to 63% without something drastic like that for the liberal quest there. So, all there's left to do is talk to my neighbors once again and hope that we can patch up my embarrassments from last time. Now, this one, Babelistan definitely is the religious center, and so I figure talking about the old ways might be a good thing. However, I also remember that they are supported by the West, and so they would, in my mind, be a rather modern society, which, compared to Bothia, they are not. So, unfortunately there, I had no good options talking to Babelistan, and Tajikistan also is going to have some problems, but we can at least talk about our cooperation amongst nations. That's a nice, neutral, friendly topic.
For our countries to grow closer.
And with that, we've at least patched up with Tajikistan. So, that only leaves the next nation of Bothia left on my call list. Bothia, of course, being the modern nation. So, they're the ones that we kind of need to make sure that we're not pissing off by seeming to be backwards yokels. Talking about human rights and freedoms in the region is probably the most neutral option that we have, but
human rights and freedoms in the region.
I think we can agree that there are more pressing issues in the region than complaints of a few Western
for a
agitators.
rather progressive country, they don't seem to care too damn much about it. So, again, I kind of screw the pooch on that one. A foreign hacker has obtained classified documents detailing the political prisoners we hold in secret isolation and is threatening to release this information to the press if we do not provide him with 50 million rial. Well, unfortunately, we don't have any of that money, and you can see that actually Bothia is now our most favored nation. So, yes, we don't have the money to pay this guy off, which is terribly unfortunate, because now this is no doubt going to have a negative effect on the international community. So, all we can really do at this point is let him release it and see if we care. The hacker has informed the press about our secret political prison. We have tried our best to suppress the articles in the state-owned press, but unfortunately human rights groups and Western media are devoting a lot of attention to this. Understood. And that is a huge dive on the United Nations there, as well as putting the liberals into a negative tailspin. However, more people are identifying as capitalists. Glorious leader defends rights records, claims secret political prisons are a fabrication. Sure they are. Sure they are. The economy, a meaningful concern, yes, and the opening game at Howler Stadium draws huge crows. The Basenji Scavengers won 3-0 against the Babelistan Falcons. Okay. I guess our national bird is crow. Capitalists and patriots. Huge chunk of the population now. Liberals are almost nothing, so it's not necessarily a big deal that we don't have their approval in Parliament. However, just having them be somewhat satisfied is kind of important to the overall safety of our nation anyway. We've definitely dipped. And probably had something to do with the political prison story. Don't really know how we're going to turn that around. We're going to have to basically buy the wildlife refuge just to get it up. Just to get back on track to getting it close to 50%, because we definitely don't want them red and angry. We need our popularity to rise, and there's really no other way to do it. We don't need capitalist approval as much right now, mostly because we're doing fine on that. The businesses, it's going to cost an awful lot of money. And then we would also have the negative effect of the upkeep. So I figure that the wildlife refuge is probably the cheap way and the easy way to placate people who are not too happy with me. And of course, getting the Patriots up is kind of an important thing too, because they are the second largest faction. And apparently I decided to buy the sweatshop and just run the risk of no money, because I kind of want to use the trading leverage to boost some approval ratings through trade and the commodities that we will have.
Thank you.
It's unfortunate that Babelistan is not at the best of relations with us at the moment. We don't also have many things that we can talk about. So we'll just get their goats to start out
We are
with.
interested in negotiating a trade agreement where we purchase your goats.
Certainly. These are the terms we are prepared to agree on.
11 million, it's kind of high, mostly because we don't have the great bonus for our relationship. Nonetheless, we need it, so we'll take it. At this point, I think we could also consider expanding upon other trade goods, but basically just having that bonus is the most important. We cannot do the trendy cashmere stuff to get our liberal approval. Patriot and fundamentalist approval, though, with the spices. At this point, we probably need it. Or so I figure. So, once again,
Thank you.
calling up Babelistan. Spices, however, cost a lot more than the goats, but nonetheless, we are somehow getting a really good rate. I mean, relatively. 17 million is going to be quite darn expensive, especially when coupled with the 11 million that I'm already paying. But having the approval rating, I think, is most important for me, and that is kind of a misconception on my part. Having fundamentalist and patriot approval per turn is kind of a big deal. If we go one more and get the religious broadcasts, we can really bump up fundamentalist. So I've already got the electronics, and I've now got the spice. So here's where I get a little bit greedy. Just buying the media products by themselves will also give me patriot and liberal approval. So I figure, hey, what the hell? We'll go ahead and jump into buying some more commodities. The prices for media are also the lowest. So at this point, I'm completely sold on getting the media products in place. Going to be detrimental because I can't do basic math, and I think that I've got more money coming in through my trades than I'm going to have being spent on things. I do realize at this point that we're at a very, very tight turning point there. I've got right now currently a little bit more coming in from exports than I do imports, but the approval bonuses at this point are just too good, especially amongst the fundamentalists. We have very few things to get the fundamentalists up on our side with, aside from going with the religious schools, and of course that costs money.
Thank you for taking.
So the only thing we can do, of course, is talk to both of you. I'd like to see if I can't get their relations up a little bit first, mostly because that will help get a better price on whatever we need. And luckily for me, Bothia is one of those countries that does not want terrorism or extremism within its borders. So this is a good topic, a neutral topic. Well, not really a neutral topic. It's a topic that we have common ground on.
To counter extremism both within and outside our borders.
I agree, and I feel great relief that our brothers and sisters in Basenji will aid in the protection of this region from short-sighted fundamentalism.
Did you see the look on his face? That was a very good thing, and is probably going to be what really helps out here in the purchase of the declining
We are
media
interested in
products.
negotiating a trade agreement where we purchase your film and television products.
Taking into account our positive relationship, these are the terms we are prepared to agree to.
He even mentions the positive. And there we go, a mere 8 million per turn. Still kind of pricey, it's 87% of the market share. But now I have many commodities coming into
Goodbye.
Basenji, and it's going to give me some fantastic bonuses for my people. Illegal immigrants from Bothia are increasingly seen as taking jobs away from your citizens and contributing to unemployment. Fundamentalists are way down. That's something to consider. We can increase penalties on those who harbor or employ illegal immigrants, pissing off the liberals, or we can offer amnesty to illegal immigrants and have them registered as tax-paying citizens, which pisses off the patriots and hurts our jobs. That's not really something that I want to do, especially since the liberals are the smallest faction and are a disappearing faction. At this point, I think it's just best to play it safe and not antagonize one of our biggest, and possibly now the biggest, faction in our parliament. So, increased penalties hurt our chances with the liberals, who, nonetheless, have gone up from last time. mostly because we've got all these nice little bonuses here. Fundamentalists are now bringing in +5 per turn, so that's really going to help out there. They've only gone up 1 since the last turn, but we've now got some points coming in, and that's really going to be useful. Unfortunately, I'm now in the hole, and working conditions in Basenji are very poor, and for some reason, more citizens are identifying as liberal, which is kind of worrisome because I just pissed off a bunch of them. Illegal immigration on the rise. Government promises crackdown on undocumented migrants. And citizens are more open to liberal ideas, seeking reforms. I guess they don't like what's going on. That might have more to do with the bad working conditions. They're still only 18%, but they've definitely gone up, and patriots and capitalists are still heavily in the majority, so that's someone we need to pander to, absolutely. But now, something definitely has to be done about that monetary crisis that's coming in, because state imports are way too damn much. They're not being offset by the exports and the tourism. Policies are also what's costing a hell of a lot of money. Unfortunately, to lower a lot of those policies is going to piss off the liberals even more because they are social safety net things, and not only that, but they also impact our overall health and safety. So it's going to be hard to erase that 26 million expenditure. I can go higher taxes, but we've already got a bit of a suffering on the approval ratings, so best not to do much about that. Lowering taxes is a good idea, but at the same time, it just makes the problem worse on my deficit, because now we have a negative 3 million, which means that on the next turn, if I do not fix this, I'm going in the hole. So on that note, I'll end it here and see you next time.